ladies and gentlemen, this is the City of Tyler Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for June the 6th, 2023. For the historians in the room, you'll know that this is D-Day. The first order of business is to call the roll. Sheila?
Yes, sir. Pamela Phoenix.
Present.
Jimmy Reed.
Present.
Beth Whitney. Blair Swain.
Here.
John Landis.
Here.
Michael Carmichael.
Here.
Commissioner Hudson.
Present. We have a quorum for the meeting. The Planning and Zoning Commission Planning and Zoning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council. Any item approved today will be heard by the City Council at its regular meeting on Wednesday, June the 28th, 2023, commencing at 9 a.m. Our regular meeting is going to be on the 28th. Okay. I thought it was going to be July the 11th. Anyway, the June 28th, 2023, commencing at 9 a.m. If you've received a notice for this meeting, you've also received a notice for the City Council meeting. Subdivision plats are approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission solely, unless there is a request for waiver of escrow fees or construction. Only the City Council makes financial decisions. If any item is denied, applicant has 10 calendar days to file a written appeal with the Planning Department. The appeal will then be acted upon by the City Council. If you're here to speak for or against an item, please state your name and address for the record. Comments should be limited to 5 minutes or less, although extensions of time may be granted by the chair upon request. At the conclusion of our meetings, we frequently have a work session to plan for our next meeting. The next work session will be held on June 20th at 1:30 p.m. And like all of our meetings, is open to the public. It will be held in the Tyler Development Center across the street at 423 West Ferguson in the large conference room. The next order of business is consideration of the minutes from our May 2nd meeting. Commissioners had an opportunity to review the minutes. Any corrections or changes or additions? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request a review of the meeting minutes. I was not present at the last meeting, but I show to have voted, at least in my packet, on consent plats group A.
All right, well, we can make that change. Any other changes or corrections? All right, Mr. Carmichael?
Make a motion, we approve.
Second.
With the correction?
With that correction, yes.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes with the one correction that Mr. Reed pointed out. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. First item on our agenda is A23 003 Garrett Moore Company. Kyle?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. This is a request for an annexation by request of the property owner. This is for 55.06 acres of land located just southwest of West Grande Boulevard and Old Noonday Road. This is, as you can see, the property here is currently outside the city limits. The applicant is requesting to annex it into the city. The surrounding properties to the south are generally residential, then to the north and east are commercial property. The applicant is requesting the property to be zoned originally as single family, multifamily, and light commercial district. So I'll go to that here. You can see, so this includes the property to the north. That's also this is the next item, but along the south, the green area and the red or the purple area. The green area to the western there is about 30 acres or so of R1A single family detached district. And then along the east portion along Old Noonday would be about eight acres of C1 light commercial, and then 6.5 acres of multifamily RMF. And this is kind of how it looks. This is how it looks like in relation to the existing form of development. And so this annexation would establish the boundary of the city limits. The new boundary is City Council District Number 2. And it would amend the future land use guide to be mixed use center, which is consistent with the properties along the east, along Grande. Of the notices that were sent out, we did receive some notices in opposition to the south. They're shown in yellow. These are from property owners that are currently residing outside the city limits. And so with all requests that relate to zoning, we do provide a courtesy notice to property owners outside the city limits. So generally the concerns, I think, were related to the development of the property, and then some multifamily, or concerns about multifamily and traffic associated with that. As I shown earlier, the multifamily areas were not adjacent to these properties. I'm not sure if the property owners that returned notices were aware of that, but go back to that. So that the multifamily, the commercial properties are all to the east and north of this area. And then as it pertains to the development of the property, so the developer will be responsible to provide utilities to the property, as well as make any improvements to Old Noonday Road if that's required based off the scale of the development. So this being 55 acres of commercial and multifamily development that would likely require some upgrades to Old Noonday Road to be compliant with minimum city ordinance. With that, staff has reviewed the application for annexation and recommends approval, which would establish the new city limits, establish the new boundary of City Council District Number 2, which would expand the Tyler extraterritorial jurisdiction, and then also amend the future land use guide and adopt original zoning of C1 light commercial district, RMF multifamily, and R1A single family residential.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Commissioners, any questions for city staff?
So Kyle, they didn't really have an issue with the annexation, it's mostly just a multifamily, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were some concerns about the city moving south more, the city limits moving, and that area previously was not near the city limits, and now it will be. But other than that, the zoning that would be adopted is similar to, it's single family. So I think most of the concerns were the multifamily being adjacent to it. So, but that's not the case here.
Kyle, is there any aspects of the master street plan that affect this property at all?
There's no proposed streets
Okay.
on it. Go back to the master street plan on here. Well, it's not shown on there, but the Old Noonday Road is a collector on the master street plan.
Okay.
And so as the property develops, that would be what would be expected on the eastern side.
On the eastern side, but nothing really from Old Noon, or I guess in front of that Encore area, correct? That's still going to be unimproved?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions, commissioners? If not, I have someone who signed up to speak, Minton Bunnell. Yes, sir. Would you like to speak?
I'd like to hear from the developer before I speak.
Okay. Is there someone here representing the developer? Yes, sir. Just state your name and address for the record.
I'm mainly here if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer. I'm not sure this is the annexation, the initial zoning, but yeah, we're having single family on the south side, do have a little bit of multifamily over about Old Noonday I believe that's more scheduled for senior living, multifamily on that side to the east. Not sure what kind of questions you may have.
Any questions? Yes, sir. All right, thank you. If you'd come to the microphone, maybe we can help you with your questions. Just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Minton Bunnell. I live at 11108 Hidden Hollow Lane. It's the Hidden Hollow Acres subdivision. I think I talked to Terry, right? Terry,
Yeah.
last week. But he told me that they were going to build out like 100 spots for homes, single-family homes. I just want to know exactly where they are. Sitting right there, I need a telescope to see what's printed up here on your screen. So I can't tell where the houses will be, how big the lots are going to be, and when the construction will start. And I thought it was kind of odd. We got a notice, a 1-week notice to come here. And is that normal?
Kyle, when was the notice?
It should say on the, on the notice. It was within the statutory requirements.
It was sent to us on May 22nd. We got it on the 26th, I believe.
Steve, all within the statutory requirement of notice?
I'd have to go back and check, Mr. Chairman, I certainly can.
The requirement is that it's sent at least 15 days before the meeting. Whatever happens with the mail, that's kind of the issue.
You know, I don't want to get carried away here, but the details on exactly what the development's going to look like are not what we're here to vote on today. We're here to vote on annexation, a recommended annexation at the request of the property owner, and some suggested possibilities with the project, property, but that's all. I can't tell you what the streets or buildings or any of that other stuff's going to look like.
I don't have any other questions.
All right. Thank you for your time and presence. I don't see anybody, another name for a person who's here to speak. Are there persons here who'd like to speak on this item for or against? Yes, sir. If you'd come to the microphone.
Good afternoon, my name is Mark Taylor. I live at 14047 County Road 193. I directly own, based on Google measurements at the appraisal district, roughly 1,600 linear feet that directly adjoins this property. My brother and I together own another 300 linear feet, roughly. I'd like to express my opposition to the annexation of this property. NIMBYism is still alive and well, and there's a reason that it's alive and well. It definitely affects property, it affects rural property when you're proposing an annexation like this. But the main concern is the traffic. County Road 192, or Noonday Road, I don't know if y'all have seen a recent traffic count on that or not. Unfortunately, there's not a recent one. 2018 was the most recent traffic count for that road. At that point in time, there was over 4,500 vehicles per day traveling that road. If you'll take a look at the traffic count, that's the most heavily traveled county road leading into the city limits of Tyler. One of the entrances to this area that's being proposed is right in a blind curve. I don't know if any of you have traveled that road. I would encourage you to travel that road before you make a decision. There's no place that the entrance can be placed on that property that's not affected by that blind curve. Entrances onto Grande are the same way. If you've traveled Grande, I'm sure you know you've got to go through the roller coaster between Old Noonday Road and 155. What you're looking at, if you're looking at roughly 100 houses, I don't know how many apartment complexes are being proposed, but let's say it's 100 yours. Then you're looking at potentially 200 residential structures with the apartments and the houses. That's going to equate to roughly 1,400 vehicles entering and exiting these roads on a daily basis. What that amounts to, if you look at this particular section of Grande, once again, going back to the traffic count of 2018, which is the most recent, there's over 14,000 vehicles that travel that stretch of road on a daily basis. To put that into perspective, if you look at all of the aged individuals within the city limits of Tyler that could drive if they want to, you're looking at roughly 18% of the population of Tyler driving that stretch of Grande on a daily basis. It should be a concern to each of you as far as the safety of the citizens, putting a subdivision at this size in that would create this many individuals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Taylor?
Mr. Taylor, can you tell us just one more, I know you gave your address, but where is your property in relation to this?
Could you pull up one of the other maps possibly that would show it better? Okay, if you look at the section in the middle that's running north and south, from the south edge of that, up to the north, to the left, to where it terminates and goes north again, and then my brother and I own the property from their traffic road. In addition to that, I have other family members. I think we got 5 of these notices on another property within 200 feet of it.
Okay.
We're all in opposition of this.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Are there others? Excuse me. Commissioners, any questions for city staff?
I have a question for Kyle. Does the, and we're not getting into the zoning aspect right now, that's the next agenda item. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
Well, with this annexation, it would establish the zoning for this R1A portion, and then the C1 and RMF on the east side.
Yes.
So it is part of this conversation.
Okay.
At least we're
Well, it's part of the next zoning item. It's not the annexation item. I think our, okay.
Yeah, it's, so this tract, this area here, when the annexation is considered, we're also considering the zoning for that area, which
Okay.
is.
Okay. And Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, it's original zoning subject to change, just as it's entering the city limits, if that's approved.
It's subject to a different recommendation if the planning commission feels
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Right now, didn't you show up with C1 or C2?
Right now, it's nothing.
No zoning.
Because it's in the county. I guess where I'm at is I'm trying to delineate what we're doing, if we're talking only about annexation or if we're also talking about the zoning aspects. And I believe that we're talking about both for the annexation portion.
Yes.
Okay.
It's original zoning because it's never been in the city.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So with that, I think in regards to traffic specifically, is this portion meet the threshold for a traffic impact analysis as far as the layout and the intent, do you believe?
So the requirement for a traffic impact analysis, or TIA, is over 200 peak hour trips
Okay.
to be generated by the development, or over 2,000 over a 24-hour period. So generally single family is, 1 trip per peak hour. I don't know exactly how many lots are planned there, because there's also going to be streets in there and access and things like that. Perhaps the applicant has, some more detail on what they think they could accommodate in that development. And then not knowing the specific use in the C1, it's tough to say whether it would or not. But if it does, then, so Old Noonday would have to be improved to the minimum standard regardless,
But
once
al-
it's developed.
But only in front of their property.
Correct.
Right.
But if there is if the TIA does show that it warrants additional, like a deceleration lane or turn
Mhm.
lanes or things like that to mitigate, the impact on that, at least at that intersection, then that would be derived from the TIA if it is warranted.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also in addition to this, can you speak to the number of entrances that will have to actually go into this development as well? Because it's over a threshold, or assumably it's over a threshold for how many entrances and exits that would come out of a subdivision.
Well, we're not looking at a subdivision, so it's tough to say. But
Okay.
if there are over 61 lots, then there will have to be, in the R1A portion, there will have to be two access points. So I'd venture to guess there's probably going to be more than 60 lots there. So that would be, but that would be either going out to Old Noonday
Mm-hmm.
or to Grande. They'd have to have two separate access points, so.
That's right.
So those two, not necessarily one, has to go to either one. They could both go to Grande if they're at two separate points.
Sure.
I think the plan, though, is to develop a street connecting through here that would intersect with Elkton Trail, which would create an intersection there where there's currently not one there. And so that would probably require, well, it would require traffic controls. I don't know if that would be a stop signs on either side or a four-way stop or whatnot, but that would be evaluated usually with the subdivision plan.
Okay.
So they would submit, when they do a subdivision of the property, they would submit all that.
Okay. So when would our friends in the community then be able to know about what's gonna be happening with the improvement of Old Noonday, or whether it's gonna be coming through? Because right now, as it would be annexed, it's straight zoning, and so really don't know what the overall plan will look like. Like in a planned district. In a planned district, we would know, we would have some kind of visual. So.
Right, so if it's not a planned district, then there's no requirement to see a plan or layout. Just the city ordinances would apply as they would any other development. This property is currently located outside the city limits, but it could be developed as is. And so I don't know to what degree it can be developed the same way, but having it being annexed into the city doesn't necessarily, is not the make or break on whether it can be developed.
Sure.
So, just if there is development of the property, then there will be, the condition of Old Noonday Road would have to be addressed at that point. So I guess that's the response to your question.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Mr. Reed. Any other questions? Are there other persons here who'd like to speak? All right, just to make sure that we understand what we're voting on, we're being asked to recommend to the City Council a new boundary for the city limits, a new boundary for City Council District 2, a new boundary for the Tyler extraterritorial jurisdiction, that the city manager be authorized to sign a written agreement for the provision of city services per Texas Local Government Code, Section 43.0672. That the future land use guide be amended to reflect mixed use. The establishment of original zoning for 10.8 acres of C1 light commercial district, 14.2 acres of RMF multifamily residential district, and 30 acres of R1A single family residential district. Did I get all those, Kyle? That's what we're being asked to recommend to the city council. Is there a motion? If no one here is going to make a motion, I will. I make a motion that we approve this request.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this request. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's 4-2. Kyle, the item is approved. Thanks to everybody for being here and your participation. The next item on the agenda is Z23014, Garrett Motor Company, 3556 West Grundy Boulevard. Kyle?
This is a zone change request from C1 light commercial and C2 general commercial to RMF multifamily and C1 light commercial. This is the property to the north. As you can see here, it's currently split C1 and C2. That C1 portion would be downzoned or rezoned to RMF multifamily, and the C1 would also be downzoned or rezoned to C1 light commercial. And so the difference between C1 and C2 are generally the intensity of the commercial activity, and C1 does not allow for outdoor display or of merchandise or storage of merchandise. So that's why I say it's kind of a downzoning. It further restricts the use of the property. So the adjacent properties to the north are generally commercially developed or undeveloped. To the east is the location of a Encore electric substation. To the south is the property we just looked at, and then to the west is currently a single family developed. And then this request would amend the future land use guide to reflect multifamily and neighboring commercial. It's just the layout as I kind of described there, but generally the western portion is going to be multifamily zone, and then the rest of it is going to be C1 light commercial, which is our light commercial neighborhood use kind of zoning district. So that would allow for offices, retail, and some restaurants, but no car lots or tattoo parlors or any outdoor display. It's more restrictive than the current zoning. Of the notices that we sent out, we didn't receive any in favor or in opposition to the request. And the staff recommends approval of this request.
Thank you, Kyle. Any questions for city staff?
And I'm not sure if I understood what I saw on part of that. I thought I saw that this is listed as C1 in part of that. Yeah, right there. But it shows RMF. So what am I being?
Yeah, the C1 area is going to be rezoned to RMF.
Okay, so we are rezoning that. Okay.
And then that C2 portion
Okay.
is going to be C1.
Okay.
Any other questions? If I'm not mistaken, the only name I see to speak on this item is Mac Taylor. I think Mr. Taylor perhaps left. Are there others who would like to speak on this item for or against? Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Z23-014.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items approved. The next item, Mr. Reed is going to
Yes.
recuse himself
Yes,
and
sir.
step out of the room.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recuse myself from PD 23-009.
Thank you. Caleb? Caleb?
Yes, this is a zone change request from R1A single-family residential to PUR planned unit residential. Multiple properties located along Medina Drive. You can see that the properties here are primarily to the west of Medina Drive, but also includes a portion there to the south where it intersects with Altamira and Mimosa Drive, I believe. The applicant is requesting the zone change in order to develop the property with single-family homes, but at a slightly higher density than what is currently permitted in the R1A, with slightly modified setbacks as well. The request is consistent with the future land use guide, which identifies the property as single-family, medium, low density, and all adjacent properties are zoned R1A and are either undeveloped currently or are developed with single-family homes. So this is the applicant's general site plan. It's rotated.
This hidden. Oh, this.
Okay. That's fine. You guys can mentally rotate that in your heads. So north would be there to the left of that image. So the applicant is planning to develop the area with 16 single-family homes. The proposed setbacks are generally 25 feet in the front, 15 in the rear, 6 feet on the sides, and 12 feet on the street side, with the exception of lot 14, which is this lot here, which is developed with a 20-foot front setback, and then this lot here on the corner, which has the front and side corner setbacks flipped. I believe the general idea for doing that was in order to kind of keep the development in line with other homes there on those adjacent properties. The maximum height would be restricted to 42 feet, and an 8-foot wooden privacy fence is proposed to be constructed along the west side of the development, which would be running along this portion of the lots that front Medina Drive. Generally all requirements will be per the UDC. The applicant, however, is requesting a variance to not install sidewalks for this development, generally on the condition that the rest of that neighborhood is not currently developed with sidewalks. Staff's recommendation is that because the applicant is proposing to develop this entire block, that sidewalks should be required. The Unified Development Code would require sidewalks here in this situation. Of the 39 notices that were sent out, we did not receive any in favor or in opposition to the request. So staff would recommend approval of this zoning change item with the condition that the UDC requirements on sidewalks be met and the sidewalks be installed for this development.
Great, Caleb. Any questions for Caleb?
Caleb, the sidewalks would be facing Medina Drive?
That's correct. Along any of those street frontages, the sidewalks would be required.
Okay.
Are there sidewalks elsewhere? Like, that I'm just not seeing?
No, not in this development. There's no sidewalks.
Any other questions for Caleb?
Is this similar lot sizes to that new development over to the west of this little area?
The lots would be slightly smaller. They kind of vary in size.
I think you mean the one along Golden?
Yeah.
Along Golden Road, yeah.
Correct.
I think they're,
Similar to that.
I think somewhere a little larger than that. Yeah.
But since this being the same developer, generally consistent with that Golden Road development as well, yes.
The Juniper Lane properties are larger.
Correct.
And bigger square
generally
footage.
developed as standard R1A size lots. These would be slightly smaller, although it's a little difficult to tell. Some of these longer lots are over this lot is 9,000, this lot is 8,000. Generally, they're at least 5,000 square feet, which is slightly smaller than what R1B would allow, but it probably generally averages out to be about R1B size lots.
All right, any other questions for city staff? I have a card on this item from Adam Reeves. Mr. Reeves?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Adam Reeves, Tempest Development, acting as the applicant on this case. I would like to give you a little bit of history on how Cider Builders has this property, and then a little extra color on the request that we're requesting for PUR. My address is 3930 Glade Road, Colleyville, Texas. You also should have packets, just the same general information. The color aerials, those were provided to all of the neighbors around this development before the requester, at the same time the request went in. So I know you all supply your own notices, but the developer wanted to make sure he's in communication with everyone around the neighborhood and gives them an opportunity to call them directly, which she's open to and has spoken to at least one or two neighbors in the area. So the history on this development, why Cider Builders has decided to be here is yes, they are in the Royal Hills Village subdivision immediately to the northwest, which with the rotation of this is just kind of bottom left of this page. That blot in yellow there at the top, thank you. So that is a 52 lot subdivision, 42 lots go to the west. There's kind of a, I'll say rectangular block on the east side of that, so a regular shaped, 10 lots there. As part of that subdivision, those will connect directly onto Malawar, so pretty close, obviously, to this development. The idea is that these will effectively mirror each other, so what you see there today, which is has homes on the ground, is actively selling those homes. It'll be a very cohesive feel between the two as you drive from one to the next. The property originally was owned by the 12 Stones Event Center, which owns that larger block to the east of the green, as well as the other lots, single-family lots that you see there. So through the process of Royal Hills development going on, they reached out to Cider Builders, liked what they were doing, thought they were doing a good job, and asked if they would be interested in purchasing some of their property from them, land that they did not need for the event center and what they're going to be doing. So, knowing the positive reaction Cider Builders had, they said absolutely we'd be very interested, and that's where we sit today in front of you. As Caleb mentioned, it's based on R1D, where we're doing the PUR for. I have 5 items that we'd like to just walk through, and then if you have questions, be happy to discuss them with you. That fall outside the bounds of normal code, but we think makes sense in this instance. The first one on the lot 13, which, thank you. The main tier lots going, yep, right there. So as Caleb mentioned, that has frontage on 2 streets, Mimosa and Medina. The request there, code requires the shortest lot length to be the front of the home. We're just asking that it be on Medina like every other house. So that's a consistent drive as you're going up and down. Those people feel like they're part of the other homes there, not facing to a different street. The second is there's a typical right-of-way dedication that would be required. We're asking to remove that. These streets have been built obviously for many years. There's no construction efforts that will need to take place to improve or enhance those roadways that are there. The benefit of the driver, what this actually does is it helps it. It's not much, but it gives it a little more separation, and we're trying to build to the back of those lots, so that we can provide a little bit more separation to the homes that are there on the west side. What that also does is just the product style that Cider Builders has. There's a chance that there's a 2-story home that goes in there, but having that additional foot, 2.5 feet of land, not having to dedicate it, allows them to push more single-family homes into this stretch of neighborhood. So that obviously the benefit there is that's less house sitting on top of the neighbors to the west as well. If there is a 2-story home, they have said that they would make sure the rear of all of those houses on the 2nd story do not have windows to help with that privacy and help hopefully keep those west homeowners as happy as they possibly could be with their neighbors coming in. But we really think that's a benefit to help those folks in the west have a little bit more privacy than what they might otherwise have. The additional is the no sidewalks that we're requesting. If you were to drive this, go around on an aerial map, there are no sidewalks in the neighborhood right now, so the general feeling is that these are kind of sidewalks to nowhere effectively. may be used by everyone that lives there, but as soon as they step off, they're back to the normal roads that have been there forever. And I think the expectation is the Royal Hills that Cider are doing is really the last large block of homes out there to begin with. That does not, I believe, have sidewalks going into it as well. So there's not really a vehicle by which more sidewalks would come in this neighborhood. I don't think the event center, when they did some of their improvements or enhancements over the past couple of years, they obviously have the next largest block of land there. There's no sidewalks that they were required to build as well. If I separate the tier of 13 lots from the addition of the 3 on the far south side, more facing Altamira, I liken that very much to being 3 lots. There's a couple of locations in this quadrant of town where houses have either been demoed and rebuilt or they were just been vacant for a long time. So if you go back about 10 years, I found 2 locations, one of them being, you can kind of see there's 2 homes that look a little bit newer directly in the center left, right off of our green lots. Those were rebuilt since maybe 2019, 2020. Those do not have sidewalks when they were built infill. There's another 2 lots further to the east and northeast, but in the same, again, general neighborhood. That might go back about 10 years where those homes were built new. Those also don't have sidewalks that were built with them. So I certainly see the 3 lots on the Altamira side much more closer to those, which I feel have a precedence of what's been required of others before us. And then lastly, as Caleb had mentioned, lot 14, which is that tier on the south, and on this page right, we're requesting this reduction from 25-foot setback to a 20-foot setback. The reality is all those homes, the base separation from the existing curb lines to the front of the house is around 33 feet. If you look at that lot, it's hard to tell. There's a dash line that actually represents the curb of Altamira. The pinch point, which is the bottom pad corner of that lot, is actually 34 feet already. And if you continue going page up or east, you can tell that curb line pushes itself further away. So you actually have 40-foot separation from that pad corner to where the street was is. So even with the 5-foot reduction, it still has more than most of the other homes we'll have out there and sit further back from the actual curb line of the street and those others. So it should still feel further away than normal, and it still allows site builders to get a normal pad site on that location that lets them put a home that's already in their program. It doesn't have to be kind of neat to fit to get inside that pad. So with those, with history, a little bit of information as to why we're having this request, I'm very happy to answer any questions that y'all have.
Any questions from Mr. Reeves? Let me just say personally, I don't have a problem with the spacing on that one lot, but I do kind of like sidewalks.
Okay.
Any other questions from Mr. Reeves?
Okay. I don't disagree with you. They're nice. I guess the way I look at it is if it's cohesive and there's a whole master neighborhood that gets you from point A to point B, they're much more useful for me than what might otherwise be confusing if you're jumping onto the sidewalk and then jumping back off and walking on the street to get anywhere around or to the churches far to the east. You're getting, in my mind, a minimal distance until you're back in the same situation where you were before.
Our friends on the commission will make that decision.
Yes, sir.
Are there, thank you for your time and presence here today. I don't see another card on this item except Ray Boudreau. I don't see Ray here. He was just to be available for questions.
I have a question for Caleb.
Sure.
Caleb, did you advise what the responses was from the 200 feet perimeter?
We, of the 39 notices that were sent out, we didn't receive any
Any?
in favor or opposition.
A question, are these lots across the street from this location, are those to be developed or are those owned by that center there that will not be developed?
They were directly across from ours. They're owned all by the 12 Stone Event Center. at this point, I don't know if they will be planning. I certainly don't believe they would plan to develop from the homes themselves. Whether they expand as part of the event center or not, I'm not sure. I don't think so is the answer, but I can't speak for them.
And the sidewalks that would be implemented would go from road to road, so like Malabar Drive down to Alita Mirror Drive for the left side, and then these two lots at the bottom.
Right, they would span the entire block, which is a good practice to, if you're gonna implement sidewalks, is to have the entire block. I know some of the examples that Mr. Reeves provided was sporadic infill development, which I don't know the whole story on those, but if you have the entire block to where you can achieve, you know, redevelopment with sidewalks, that would be, at least that's what we're recommending. And then whenever you have a kind of a corner lot, you know, we're at a corner of a block, that also makes sense to start there. You gotta start somewhere, you know? And so so it would be the entire block, and then that's what staff's recommending, the entire block there, and then also the corner lots. which
Those
would
two?
be Those two.
So just sidewalks in front of
Well-
those two?
Pardon me?
Just sidewalks in front of those two lots, or you're talking about doing the entire block?
Just,
Right here.
just along the street fronts of all,
Okay.
of all the green
Okay,
blocks.
down to Cheryl Lane. Okay.
Yeah, but again, from our standpoint, they don't go anywhere. And certainly the Cheryl and Altamira ones for us, that doesn't really get you very far or in our mind.
These lots have
Folks.
15-foot
Setbacks?
setbacks in the rear. It's not much of a rear yard. So that's, some of the other consideration that we had was that the sidewalks would provide perhaps some other form of recreation or, you know, essentially pedestrian
Gotcha. Mhm.
element based off how crowded these lots are by the homes.
And those lots on the southern eastern, those 1, 2, 3, the two are facing Altamira Drive, and then one is facing Cheryl Lane, or how are they
The one on
facing?
top is facing Altamira, the other two on the bottom right are facing
Cheryl?
Cheryl. Yes, ma'am. And then all, the block of 13 to the left with the request on block 13 would all face Medina.
Okay, so we'll have a sidewalk going all the way down and across. Okay, gotcha. So it'll be like an L for the sidewalks.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time and presence. I don't have any other cards. Are there other persons here who would like to speak on this item for or against? If not, is there a commissioner who'd like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve PD 23-009 with the implementation of sidewalks.
Is there a second?
Do we need to clarify any of those other items, or are they already included?
So the 20-foot setback, that's just per the site plan, and then the actual right-of-way dedication is not actually required because that street's built out to curb to curb, so there's actually not right-of-way dedication required, so the answer to your question, no.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Before
Yes, sir.
we do that, I'm on board with everything. I agree. I don't think sidewalks are necessary. So I don't know how to introduce that into my approval.
We have Blair,
You would be mad.
a great American. We have a motion to approve this with sidewalks. So I think the appropriate thing to do would be to vote and as it moves your heart, Mr. Swain, do what you think is right. Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item with sidewalks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Mike, did you vote? You vote? So it's 3-2. Thank you all. Thanks to everybody for your your consideration and your input. Thanks. The next,
You remember.
We can let you.
next item on our agenda is Z23-009, KLT Holdings.
Okay, there we go. This is a zoning change request from RMF Multifamily Residential District to R2 Two-Family Residential District, located along North Ward Avenue. This is one of those items that we see fairly often that is currently undevelopable, and it's under its current zoning of multifamily zoning. In fact, a rezoning would actually make it in line with the future land use guide, which identifies the properties being single-family and single-family attached. The applicant's requesting the zone change in order to develop the property with a duplex. It's a little difficult to see some of the surrounding properties here, but generally the properties in the area are either undeveloped, some developed as single-family homes, there's some commercial activity, and potentially some two-family or multifamily development in that area as well. So this request would not be out of line with the general character of the neighborhood. Of the 18 notices that were sent out, none were received in favor or in opposition, and staff recommends approval of the zone change request.
Thanks. Any questions for Caleb? I do not see anybody who signed up to speak on this item, but that may be me. Are there persons here who would like to speak on, yes, sir, on this item for or against? Please come to the mic.
I'm not sure which one he's speaking of. I'm the one on Palace Street.
Well, this is actually on North Ward. Can you see that?
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
The
we're
left-hand
not-
side is North Palace.
We're not to the
Right, that'll be,
we're not to the item that's on North Palace. We're not there yet. But I'll make sure,
Not done yet.
not yet.
Oh, okay.
I'll make sure that you have an opportunity to speak when we get to that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. This is the item on 530 North Ward Avenue. Are there persons here who would like to speak on this item? Questions for city staff? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I can make a motion, we approve item Z23-009.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item's approved. Next is Z23-010, J. Angel and Mariella Gonzalez.
Yes, this is a zone change request on 139 Forest Avenue. A zone change request from RPO Restricted Professional Office District to R1A Single Family Residential District. Similar to the last one, a little different, but this is a kind of a cleanup item for a property that is currently zoned RPO for commercial office use, but is currently developed with a single family home. The applicant has made it, has informed us that the property has never been used as an office. In my research, I wasn't really able to find when it was rezoned to an office use, but it seems as though it's never really been used for that. So this item would bring the property into conformance and allow it to not have any issues with it being a single family house there on the property. And since it's single family, it would be it would be consistent with the future land use guide, which identifies it as single family, medium low density. And then of the 21 notices that were sent out, none were returned in favor or in opposition to the request, and staff recommends approval.
Any questions for Kate? If not, I don't have any cards for, are there persons here who'd like to speak on this item, for or against? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Z23-010.
Second, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item's approved. Next is S23 OFB Group LLC. Caleb?
Yes, this is the first of two. Dottie will present the second one in a bit, of TABC distance variance requirements. You might remember last month or a few months ago having a similar one located along Front Street. This property is located in our downtown business arts and culture district, located along West Irwin Street, corner of West Irwin and South Bodark Avenue.
Says East Irwin.
East Irwin? Well,
That's what the screen said.
um,
Is it West Irwin or
It's
East?
west right here and east right here.
Oh, there it is.
West.
it can be west.
Thanks. I see what you're talking about now.
The applicant is requesting the variance in order to operate the property with a wine bar there on the property. However, the property is located within 300 feet of two different churches. The church to the west is Marvin United Methodist Church, and then the church to the south is Christ Episcopal Church. This would be the church here and the church here. I believe this building is also part of their campus there.
I think we're familiar with these two churches.
I'm just making for the record.
But I appreciate that.
I believe the church to the west, the property would be located about 146 feet from door to door, as per TABC measurement requirements, and then the property to the south is about 258 feet door to door. So both would be in violation of the 300 feet distance requirement. Important just to note is that when reviewing this, that we're not reviewing for the type of TABC permit that's being applied for. My understanding is that you cannot restrict what type of permit is being applied for or have that as consideration. This is just any type of TABC permit would be permitted if this SUP is granted, as long as it still is in meeting with locally adopted guidelines, what the city of Tyler would allow in terms of TABC and what the TABC office themselves would allow. Also important to note is that in the downtown district, having something similar to this near an established church is a fairly common practice. This might be the first one in Tyler, but especially as things develop more to the west here, where there are more of the churches, it could be more common and, like I mentioned, is frequent in more urban downtown areas. Of the 10 notices that were sent out, none were returned in favor or in opposition to the request, and staff has reviewed all the conditions of the request and would recommend the approval of the special use permit for distance variance proximity to a church.
Thanks, Caleb. Did I get looks like I got a letter from Rob Birch in favor, or he evidently wrote a letter to the church and saying that he was not opposed to this. Is that your understanding?
I believe that's for the next one.
Oh, that's the next one? Okay.
Caleb, is there anywhere else in Tyler where a variance has been granted?
Yeah, there is actually, it's ETX, the brewery down here. There was a variance granted for that site for the, from the Bethel Bible Church, across the road.
Yeah.
And so, like Caleb said, we do have an example of this has already been, a similar case already been approved.
Okay.
And again, with the downtown, the square or the core of a downtown, it's not uncommon to have this type of activity historically.
Gotcha.
So are there persons here that would like to speak on this item?
Jimmy had a question.
Jimmy, you have a
I
question?
had a question for Caleb.
Okay.
Caleb, you talked about TABC use, right? And so were you specifying that it's the type of alcohol that can be served? You can't specify the type of alcohol that can be served or sold, or can you expand a little bit more on that?
Right.
So like a liquor store going in right here,
would not be permissible.
Would not be permissible.
By City of Tyler, what Smith County, what they've adopted.
correct? Yes. Yeah, so that, but serving, like having a restaurant here that served alcohol, that would be something that the City of Tyler would.
Right, so of the different TABC permits that are available under the current Smith County regulations that can be had in Smith County, there's a difference between some that allow, like, standard for a restaurant, a mixed beverage permit, or some other just beer and wine sale. I guess what I'm just trying to mention is that we wouldn't differentiate between the allowable permits that are there. As I mentioned, the applicant is proposing to do a wine bar here on this property. They would still have to get their TABC approval, and that would still have to be approved through the state TABC and the local TABC through our review. But the difference between them doing a wine bar or a restaurant with the special use permit, in theory, they could operate either.
They could operate either one.
Right. Correct.
Okay.
So they could operate just dealing alcohol wholesale?
Under whatever would be permissible by the,
TABC?
by what's allowed by TABC in Smith County.
Not like not sales, not like going in and buying beer and wine, but having a restaurant specifically.
Okay, serving,
Serving.
Well, no,
not retail.
I think that's the point Caleb was making, is that we can't through this process say whether it's on premise only or off premise only. So,
So they could
so
just,
it could be on or off. That's the.
And we can't, on the part of the special use permit, we can't restrict that.
Right.
All right, any other questions?
I was gonna say, the applicant does not intend to do any, sales for off premise. It's just a kind of restaurant, wine bar use.
Well, the mechanism, if there was a challenge in the future, would be just an automated special use permit, right?
The special use permit will be indefinite for the property.
Until they don't need or until they do something that jeopardizes the spirit of the special use permit.
Well, in this case, the special use permit acts as a variance, and so it would be applicable for the applicant to receive. And so what staff does, when we get an application for an alcohol permit, we have to do a review on the distance requirement. And without the approval of the special use permit, we could not complete that review and say it's approved for that specific permit. So if, I guess to answer your question, if the permit that was sought for the SUP, if there was a discontinuance of the activity, then if there was a new permit after a year or two, somebody came back and wanted to do that, then we can reevaluate that and get another special use permit for that.
and the variance is attached to the property, so if they wanted to sell it,
As long as it continued, yeah.
Yeah. If there's a gap of 6 months or longer, is that right? And you're saying that we cannot put a time limit on this particular special use permit? It's either all or nothing?
Haven't we put the time limit before? Haven't we made an alteration to?
On special use permits for like hair salons and things like that. Because those are tied to that's a use allowance. This is really a variance, so an exception. This is, here's Steve.
Mr. Keene is available for questions. My understanding is that we've hit the intersection between local government and state government, and this is an area where the state government's rules and regulations for alcohol sales preemptus. But I'd rather hear Mr. Keene's comments. He's my lawyer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you described it correctly. General rules, TABC, Texas Alcoholic Beverage Code preempts municipal regulations. There are exceptions. One of those exceptions is municipalities can adopt ordinances, as the city of Tyler has done, to regulate different types of alcohol as long as it's allowed by the state law and as long as Tyler has gone through any necessary elections to authorize that. So in this case, municipalities have to have a 300-foot rule, but Tyler has elected to do so. At the same time, the state law and the Tyler ordinances allow variances to that 300-foot rule. Now, Tyler is elected to do this in the form, grant variances in the form of a special use permit. That's not the only way to do it, but that's the way Tyler has decided to do it. In that case, it's my opinion that you could put a time limit on it if you wanted to, because it's a special use permit and you could see if it wanted to work for a year or not. You aren't setting a precedent in that case because each special use permit is based on its own merits. So that is one way to approach it. You could put a time limit. Also, if there's any violations of other city ordinances or if they violate, the state law on serving minors or something like that, there could be a recommendation for the city council to revoke the special use permit. So by granting a special use permit, you aren't guaranteeing that they're able to. It's just, if they continue to operate properly, then it'll stay in effect. But the time period would really be up to the commission or the council. I think most of these, if not all, have been for an indefinite period, but that doesn't mean you couldn't do it the other way.
See, serving minors would obviously be an issue that would subject the business to some kind of approbation. Would taking alcohol outside the building and consuming it in public, would that be also a violation that?
It would have to be a violation of the public consumption law, and there are different laws on that, so it depends on where it is, if it's inside a vehicle, and interestingly enough, the state law allows the city, if it wanted to do so, to adopt an open container law for the downtown business district. Now, the city has not done that, but that is an option. So I think it's going to depend on what the violation is, and I don't think you could tie it to the actions of the patron to the business. But if the business is violating, or one of its employees is, you certainly could. So I think that, plus as y'all know, the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission is very strict, and they could yank their license if they were violating any applicable state law.
Do you think I could turn in an hour of CLE self-study for this time we've spent together?
I
will say that I helped draft the ordinance for this, and along with planning and zoning, and it was a multi-month effort. It's very complicated.
Any other questions from Mr. Keene? We thank you for your presence here and your availability to guide us through these complexities.
So we either want to make a determination whether we want to stipulate a time limit with it or have it to be indefinite.
Yeah, my feeling is to have some kind of mechanism. This sounds like an enhancement to the downtown area, and I think could make it better. But I think we need to have a mechanism that if it turns negative, then it can no longer bring down downtown. So to me, it feels like the timeline is the way to do that.
But then we already have some in Tyler that exists with the indefinite, correct?
I believe all of the ones that received the variance are indefinite.
Mr. Swain,
Doesn't change the way I feel.
I tend to agree with you on this point. I think without guidance from our superiors and our betters over at the city council, I'd hate to jump off into a time period, although I sympathize with your point. And I guess we'll just have, my opinion would be, we'll just have to wait and see how this works. And if it doesn't work as we would hope, then maybe the council or others would give us some guidance. But that's just me. Are there other persons here who'd like to speak? All right, is there a motion?
I've had a trusted advisor tell me that being a buck and bronco is not a bad thing. And so I'd like to make a motion that we approve S23-007 for a 1-year period of time.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Are there any problems in doing it? I mean, does it cause us any problems other than we'll have to do it again in a year from now?
That should not cause you any problems. The council can take your recommendation and apply it in this situation. You aren't setting a precedent for other areas because each variance, and this is a variance, it's related to its own special use permit. So I don't think you could do it either way, and certainly be well within your authority.
Thanks again, Steve. Motion's been made and seconded. Sheila, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Michael Carmichael.
Aye.
John Landis.
Aye.
Blair Swain.
Aye.
Jimmy Reed.
Aye.
Pamela Phoenix.
Aye.
David Hudson.
Aye. The zoning variance is approved with a 1-year time limit. Thanks to everybody for being involved in this. The next item is S23-008, Rosebriar Off-Broadway LP. Tharani, where have you been?
I was on vacation.
And you're back?
I'm sorry?
Are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
That's correct. Tell us about Rosebriar.
This is also a TABC variance. This is for the property along South Broadway Avenue, right across from the Rose Hill Cemetery. The applicant is requesting a special use permit to sell beer and wine at the La Patrona Mexican restaurant to the southeastern portion of the property. There is a church on the left, on the southwestern portion of the property. That's a Covenant Fellowship Church. That's also located in the same shopping complex. And according to the TABC and the UDC, the 300 feet rule also applies internally, not just from property to property, but internal to the property as well. So that's why we're here, since we are measuring for the church from door of the Mexican restaurant La Patrona to the door of the church, and that is approximately 150 feet, and so that's why they're here for a TABC variance. I also want to point out that the church had submitted the letter, the applicant has submitted the letter from the church stating that they are not opposed to the restaurant selling beer and wine. Let me go back to that one. Out of the 10 notices that was sent, none was received in favor and in opposition to the request. Staff would like to point out the recommendation to just for that suite. Like I pointed out, we have done this before in the Times Square and also in the French Quarters, that the recommendation be limited to just the existing suite of the building and not to any expansion. So in case if that building to the southeastern portion were to expand, this SUP would not be applicable for that, and they'll have to come back and apply for a SUP for that entire expansion as well. So this would be limited to just this one suite in the southeastern portion. And also, since this is internal SUP, we want to make sure that the protected uses, so in case if there was a church to the, somewhere on the north, this would be applicable, but not if there was a church to either the northern property or to the west or to the east. If they were outside the property, this SUP would not be applicable. So we're placing a recommendation based on these two, limited to the existing building and also limited to the protected uses internal to the shopping center. So the staff recommends approval of this variance for TABC with the special use permit.
Thank you. Any questions for Ronnie?
Ronnie, hasn't there been another suite that has had a special use permit for alcohol as well, or am I not, like the Twisted Root or another suite in here, or am I not thinking correctly?
Not in this shopping center that I'm aware of, but
there was a more there, but it wasn't that particular building, but in
It's
that
another
same shopping center.
Ma'am, could you come to the microphone and speak? State, it's okay.
I was answering your question.
No, and we appreciate that. State your name and address for the record.
Along with logos, and I'm here for another matter. So I was just mentioning that in that shopping center, on the side where Stein Mart,
Yes.
the long side of it, there was a bar there, dog tags, where they did serve alcohol.
That's a separate,
On
but
the
that's a
property.
separate piece of property.
Yeah, it's.
Okay, okay.
Thank you for your time.
She's like, that's the last time I speak.
Are there those others who would like to speak? Or any more questions, Mr. Reed? Any questions? Any persons who would like to speak? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve S23-008 to specify to this specific suite and also limited to the protected uses internally. And did I say that right, Ronnie?
yes.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items approved. Next is Polo Molina, 906 Turner Avenue, Z23-011. Thrani.
This is a zone change request from 2-family residential district to R1B, single-family residential district. This property is located in the north end, north of the northeast intersection of Bunchy Street and Turner Avenue. The applicant is requesting the zone change for the property to be subdivided. They want to have 2 individual homes instead of a duplex on there. That's why the request. The future land use guide identifies this property as single-family, medium-low density. This is consistent with the future land use guide, and that's the area. And most of the surrounding properties are single-family, so this would be consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. Also, this is in the north end, so this would add more rooftops to the north end, which is in aligned with the Tyler First Code. Out of the 10 notices sent, none was received in favor or in opposition to the request, and staff recommends approval of the zone change from R2 to R1B.
Thank you. Any questions for Thrani? My screen that lists everybody who might want to speak has gone blank. So let me just ask, are there persons here who would like to speak on this item for or against? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Z23-011.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Items approved. Next is Z23-1012, Michael Diaz, 1409 North Palace Avenue.
This is a zone change request from C1 light commercial district to R1D single family attached and detached residential district. This is a property that's located along North Palace Avenue. Most of the properties that you could see is all developed with single family homes. This is a result of a pyramid zoning where single family homes were allowed under C1. The applicant's requesting a zone change to develop a single family home, but previously it was zoned for commercial. The future land use guide is consistent. This would allow single family in that area. That's the aerial view of the property. Out of the 21 notices sent, none was received in favor or in opposition to the request. This would also, since it's in the north end, this would add more rooftops to the north end as well. And staff recommends approval of this zone change.
Thank you, Thron. Any questions for Thron? Sir, this is the item that you wanted to speak on. If you would come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
This is one on North Palace.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. I think she's saying they want to make this residential area, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir, just this one lot.
This is one lot. Well, I think I have 2 lots over there.
Okay,
And that's not a good place to raise a family.
okay,
But residential, it should stay commercial.
okay. Which are two, you say you have 2 lots in this area?
Right.
Can you tell us, show us which?
Right there on the corner of Palace. It's right across the street from that church. Which was it?
On Palace and
Cochran.
Cochran?
Palace.
okay,
Those two.
okay. Any,
You go to another map.
We have a current zoning.
yeah.
So all those are C1s?
All the pink is.
Yeah,
is
C1s.
C1.
From pyramid zoning.
Yeah.
You got aerial view?
Those are homes across the street. Is that correct?
There's a home across the street. There's a vacant lot there, but I think they're owned by the same people.
Okay.
Yeah, there are single family homes. There's one just south of here and then north of there. One of the problems with these are residential lots. They don't meet the minimum lot size for commercial activity, so they're best. That's why the future land use guide has them best suited for single family.
Okay.
Sir, we appreciate your insight. Are you concerned about the traffic? You just don't think it fits with the area, or?
I've seen it, there'd be one new house next to our railroad property. And the church across the street in front of it, and the church side of it, down the street's a funeral home. Up the street is a tie shop, and I think they put a taco shop in it. I don't think who's the one that want to develop it into residential. Would they live on that street? I doubt it. I wouldn't want to raise a family on that street. I wouldn't even want to live on that street. You got those churches and traffic, and it's not a place for residential people to have, so I'm against it. I'm against them wanting to put houses in there for families to be raised on that street. It should be a commercial street with the traffic. 2 lanes, no turn signal. It's bad. And I think about the spot that they had in Dallas, Texas. That they had residential, and they wish that they hadn't done it, because in that area where they had put residential, the traffic council went up. Would have problems. They ain't got enough problems there. Sickness, dust, cars, traffic, noise. I've been there. Not good. It's not good for the citizens that even want to live there. They may not even be aware of this or know this, and then they move in there 5 years, 6 years, and they come up, sit.
Did we get your name and address for the record, sir?
You want my name?
Yes, sir.
Henry Ray.
Henry
Right, Henry Ray.
Ray.
I'm at 10229, County Road 428, Tyler, Texas, 75704.
Okay, thank you.
I live out in the country.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for, any other questions for this gentleman? Thank you for your
I
time and
appreciate it.
presence.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Are there others, do you want to speak on this item? Yes, sir, if you'd state your name and address for the record.
Paul Robinson, 1409 North Palace. I'm the owner of the property right there, and it's all residential. There are no businesses there, and I think I'm in support. I think that it's good for the north area to be building. As he stated, they just built the house right next to the property in which we're in the process of voting on. And I'm for it, I support it, and I think it's good for the neighborhood to improve the North Tyler area. And if you go up the road from T.J. Austin, the school up from Palace, you'll see that they've built new homes all up in that area. If you go up and down Palace, you'll see that there are no businesses there. The lots are too small for businesses, and the only new business that is on Palace is the new fire station on Gentry in Palace. There are no businesses coming there, and I think that building homes in that area will vitalize the area, refresh it, renew it, and allow North Palace to come to some type of life, because it's dying right now. So I'm just for it. I'm in support for it. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for your time, President. Any questions for this gentleman?
Paul Robinson, 1409 North Palace.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Appreciate it.
Are there others who wish to speak?
Thank you for your help on that.
Any other? Yes, sir.
How's it going? My name is Justin Diaz. I'm working alongside the developer, Michael Diaz, with this property. They're on that same street, a few lots down, if I'm not mistaken. They're actually building another residential home in that same area. And we've actually already built 2 residential houses in that area as well. It's actually bringing a lot of light to the neighborhood. A lot of people are outside, and it's actually like bringing light to North Tyler, because like he said, I pass by there almost every day, and North Tyler's kind of dead, and there's really nothing going on in that area really. Like we want to kind of bring the North Tyler, people out, and be able to expand and create and bring in more families and whatnot. So yeah, but there is a house being built in 2 streets, 3, 4 lots down. I don't see why we wouldn't be able to go from commercial to residential. That actually go complement the neighborhood. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Diaz? Thank you for your time and presence. Are there others who would like to speak on this item? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Z23-012.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item is approved. Next is Z23-013 Newmark Holdings. Ronnie?
This is a zone change request from R1B, Single Family Residential, to RMF, Multifamily Residential District. This is a property that's located southeast intersection of South Clayton Avenue and East Earl Street. The applicant is requesting the zone change to develop the property with townhomes. The applicant initially requested for RMF, which is a multifamily district, but after discussing with the staff, the applicant has amended their request to PUR since it's a townhome type of development and it's allowed in PUR. So that would be single family, that's planned unit residential with the site plan. I'll talk briefly about the surrounding zoning. North, east, and west is zoned R2 and is a mixture of single family homes and some undeveloped lots. The properties to the south is RMF. It's a location of a single family home and an eye center. The future land use guide. It specifies a single family, medium low density. This would amend the future land use guide to single family and single family attached since they're townhome type of development. That's the aerial view of the property and that's the proposed PUR site plan. The applicant is proposing 8 single-family homes, and that would be at the density of 8 units per acre. The entry would be of South Clayton Avenue, and the exit would be on East Earl Street. Landscaping, parking would be as per the Unified Development Code. They're also proposing a common area to the south with abetting the eye center to the south. This will also implement Tyler's first goal of adding 3,000 homes to the north end, since this is in the north end area. Out of the 23 notices that was sent, none was received in favor or in opposition to the request, and staff recommends approval of the zone change from R1B to PUR with the site plan.
Thanks, Ronnie. Any questions for Ronnie? Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
This is you. Come to the microphone and state your name.
Sure. My name is Alondra Villalobos, and I own the home at 1428 East Earl Street, which is actually right in front where the exit would be to these 8 homes in this small lot. I was under the impression that it was going to be 4, and I said, when I looked at the plans that were online, what I could find. But that space is very small for 8 homes, 8 single-family homes or townhomes that we're talking about. That is a quiet street. All of the homes in that block are single-family homes with, adequate lot space, backyards, front yards, and I am against this because the traffic is going to increase. I mean, we're talking about 8 units there. That's, people have at least 2 cars. The traffic is, and it's going to be right in front of my house. Right now, the kids are able to go outside, play outside, and I also want to hear from the developer. I mean, are these going to be for sale? Are they going to be for rent? Is this going to be low-income housing? What is the plan? So I don't know. Is the developer here today? Anybody?
We'll ask. Just show me where you live.
I live. This is my, okay, hold on. Yeah, this is my home right here.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I looked at it.
That's okay, you broke the answer.
This one.
Okay. Any questions at all?
I'm not against them building on it, but 8 is a lot. Again, all of the families that live on that street, on that block, in that neighborhood, they've all been there for a while. I am the newest one on the block. I've been there for 2 years. And the reason why I purchased there when I was looking for a home, of course, here in Tyler, everybody looks to go south. But I am originally from the north. And this, besides not being the most desirable neighborhood in town, is a calm neighborhood where everyone takes pride in their home. It's not the richest neighborhood, but everyone takes care of their property, and so I am concerned about this being turned into basically apartments. is what it's sounding like to me. So those are my concerns, and I hope you take them into consideration. Again, I'm not opposed to building on these lots, because they are just sitting there most of the time. There's actually one right beside it that sits directly in front of my house. And for the most part, it gets overgrown. They put out citations for the lot being overgrown constantly. So again, I'm not opposed to this being built on and creating homes for families, but I am opposed to what their plan is to do with it.
Don't go away. Thank you for your time and presence. Are there any questions for this?
I do want to know, Tharani, are these townhomes going to be two-story or single-story?
Single story.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering, how big are these going to be? How much square footage could they possibly put in it? Because it's supposed to be 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And I'm going to assume you're going to have a kitchen and some semblance of a living room. You know, with having 8 units, how big are these actually going to be? I don't see this housing anyone who plans to remain there and put roots in the neighborhood.
Thank you again for your time and presence. We appreciate you being here. Are there others who wish to speak on this item? I know the answer to this question, but I'm supposed to know the answer before I ask it. Are there persons here representing this developer? No.
Can I add just one more thing?
Yes, please.
Okay. So again, this is the east side. These are primarily Hispanic families that live in this neighborhood. Most of them do not speak the English language well and would be intimidated to come here and do this. I have talked to some of my neighbors, and basically today was supposed to be find out what's going on for them, to see what it is that is wanting to be done. In fact, when I found the pictures today of what was supposed to be the front of the townhome, again, I thought it was 4 of them. I'm like, okay, where are you gonna come in on? Because Clayton is a very narrow street, Earl is still just a residential street where if you're gonna be having all this traffic coming in, are they going to be parking on the street? If they don't give enough parking for the individual townhouses, are they going to be parking in the street? And so again, I am the only one here, but I am taking this information back to the other residents. I don't know what that means. I mean, this is the first time I've come to one of these meetings, and it does sound like y'all make decisions right here and right now. But I did want to make sure that I shared that with y'all, and if you would allow me to get the information from my neighbors, to get their opinion too, or then I would appreciate that. But I do understand. I just wanted to make sure that I was here to speak for those who could not speak.
You're welcome to speak to your neighbors.
Yes.
And thank you again for your time and presence.
What I would suggest is you take a picture of the site plan that the developer is implementing right there, and you see the parking and how it's laid out to, bring that information back to your neighbors.
And our wonderful city staff will serve you very, very well. They'll take care of any questions that you may have.
Definitely.
So these wonderful people that serve us will help you.
Can you
Ronnie and
on
Tom.
The rules for this meeting are to encourage the applicant to be here. And in the absence of an applicant, I just wonder what the commission might be prepared to do in a situation like this.
I have a question for Tarani first,
Sure.
and then I can do that. Tarani, look on. Can you go to the future land use guide real quick? So single family attached on Mahan and Earl. Is that property there developed? Because it shows R2 zoning, but the future land use guide isn't cohesive with the. I know it's not always cohesive, but is there a plan for that section there?
It does look like it is R2, so I'm not sure if it's already been developed or not, but
Okay.
it would develop with the, if it's attached, it'll be a duplex.
Right, sure.
So it'll be six units in the 3 lots.
Okay, okay. I just noticed an inconsistency between the two, and I didn't know whether there was a trend within, or in close proximity. And maybe, yeah, maybe Ms. Villalobos can help us with that as well. So I'm talking about the corner of Earl and Mahan.
I think that was a recent zone change to R2.
That was a recent zone change to R2? Okay.
That's
Okay.
why
That's why they
land
don't.
use is
Okay.
different.
Okay.
Give me a minute, I can tell you when that was. But I could look it up. But
No need to. I just didn't know whether there was a particular trend because I saw the inconsistency between the two. But
The recommendation is to approve.
Yes.
And based on the fact that there's some other kind of sprinkled throughout there, or it touches other residential multifamily?
Well, even though they are all single-family homes, all the zoning that you see on the north are R2, and they have
Yes.
the capability to be a duplex
The
or an
RMF
attached home.
The RMF below it, what's that?
That is an eye center, the De Haven Eye Center, and
So it's not multifamily?
no, it is not multifamily.
Right. Yeah. But single family is allowed in R2 as
Right.
well.
Right.
Yeah, well, if the R2, if it were zoned R2 like all the other
Yeah.
properties, that would be 10 units? Or 5 duplexes,
It's,
based off the lot size?
If it was
10
R2,
units could go on that.
yeah, on that property.
Based
yes.
off the 7,500 square feet minimum lot size for a duplex?
yes. But it's not.
That's not.
The current zoning R1B, that would allow for 5 units on that property.
Say one more time.
The current
Tony.
zoning R1B would
Yes.
allow for 5 units on that property, individual units.
5 single-family homes,
Single-family
which would match what's actually there on the ground being single-family homes
Yes.
within its proximity.
Yes.
Okay.
Proposal is 8.
Any other questions?
I'm not sure if I have enough information to approve it personally.
Yeah.
Mr. Carmichael, that's why you're here, is because of your wisdom.
That's correct.
And I don't think I have enough information to approve this either. So if someone would like to make an appropriate motion to either deny, continue, postpone, whatever y'all think.
I'd like to make a motion that we deny Z 23-013.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That brings us down to plats. Jimmy, which one are you stepping out on?
I believe, Mr. Chairman, it's the very first one on the consent plats, Group A.
The Royal Hills?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, let's do the first plat, first F-23-058, Herndon subdivision, Thrive.
This is a plat for 0.30 acres of land located north of the northeast intersection of Bunchy Street and Turner Avenue. This is one of the zone changes that we saw, where they were intending to divide the property into 2, to have 2 single-family homes. But since it has just been approved by the PC and it has to go through the city council in order to get a final approval, we have to procedurally deny this plat. And they could, once the city council approves it, they can come back and it could be approved with an admin. So procedurally, we recommend denial of this plat.
Are the persons here who wish to speak on this item? If not, are there questions for Thorani? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we deny item F-23-058.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Plats is denied. Mr. Reed is going to...
From consent plats, Group A entirely, or just the individual item?
Let's just do the one individual item, and I'll do my best to remember to call you back.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself from F-23-062.
Okay. We're going to do these separately, to accommodate Mr. Reed, F23062, Royal Hills Village, Unit 3, final plat, Ronnie.
This is 11 lot subdivision, approximately 1.85 acres of land located west of the northwest intersection of Gold Avenue and Malabar Drive. This is currently zoned PUR. It's a planned unit residential. They're creating 11 lots out of this subdivision. This is right about the zone change that we saw for PUR on Medina Drive. All the staff comments have been addressed, and staff recommends approval of this plan.
All right, thank you. Any person here wish to speak on this item? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item F23-062.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item is approved. Jimmy. Mr. Reed's back in the room. Next is F22 100 Cascade Park Village final plat.
This is a one lot subdivision containing approximately 18.38 acres. This is located along intersection of DePriest Avenue and Walton Road. The property is currently zoned RMF and a bit of R1E as well. They're creating one lot for the development, and all the staff comments have been addressed, and staff recommends approval of this plan.
Thank you. Any questions for Ronnie? If not, is there a person here who'd like to speak on this plat? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve F22-100.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this plat. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, Kyle, there are 4 consent plats, Group B. Are these still eligible to be denied?
Yes, there's still deficiencies associated with these plats that require that they be denied.
Okay. P23-012 Parkside Edition, F23-041 Highmind Way final plat, F23-072 Mockingbird Park Edition, Unit 1 7th Amendment, and F23-073 Hickory Harbor Phase 2 3rd Amendment. Persons here wish to speak on these plats. Staff recommendation is to deny. Is there a motion?
Chairman, request we deny consent plat Group B.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny consent plat Group B. Any discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Plats are denied. At this point, we're going to adjourn.